Hi dads, Brandon Jones here from Be Dadly, and I want to talk to you about something you can do to instantly make parenting easier.
Welcome to Power Parenting 101.
So my name is Brandon Jones. I'm the founder of Be Dadly, and at Be Dadly, we like to give fathers great parenting strategies, tools, and tips so that they can make their parenting journey easier. We're helping dads exit the carrot and stick model of parenting. That means no more bribery and no more punishment, but actually getting the kind of results we want. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please be sure to like and subscribe. And for more information, you can find us at www.bedadly.com. Okay, with that long prelude out of the way, let's get into it. We seem to notice every little mistake our child makes, every small misbehavior and annoying act that they enact. When we do this, when we sit there and nitpick and we look at every small thing they're doing, unfortunately, it's just a recipe for trouble. And the thing is that we're often doing this when we are in public or when we're around other parents or when we're on the playground or when we're at a party or in a public space like a restaurant. It's very easy for us to notice every small mistake that our child is making and feel the urge to correct them. Now, what many of us don't realize is that most of the time our children's actions are trying to achieve the goal of belonging and significance. That means that most of the time, the actions we see our children taking are really just them trying to find a place to belong or a way to feel significant with others or with their peer group. The problem is that when we pay attention to and even correct these misbehaviors, we may actually be perpetuating the cycle because we may be giving our children a negative hit of that belonging and significance. Let me show you what I mean. If a child unconsciously doesn't feel a strong sense of belonging, you may see them act in some really bizarre ways. Whining, being noisy, doing the wrong thing, acting helpless. These are all signs that your child does not feel a strong sense of belonging, and so they're acting in kind of bizarre ways to try to get your attention. The mistaken belief here is that whenever I act like this, at least my parents and others look at me. Now let's say the child feels a lack of significance. Now this is a lack of personal power. What this might look like is a child actually being a little bit defiant, maybe even contrarian and going against the group, or just being argumentative, and it can be really frustrating. This is a clue that they haven't felt a strong sense of personal power, and so they're going to take power in albeit negative ways. Unfortunately, us overcorrecting only adds fuel to the fire. If we give attention or find ourselves power struggling, we may actually be perpetuating the cycle of these behaviors. In these moments, it's actually more powerful to ignore them or to distract or redirect them than it is to actually correct them. That's because when we ignore, distract, or redirect, we actually take away the power that they received from that behavior. So if they're attention seeking and we give them attention, they get the power. If they're attention seeking and we decide to ignore them or to walk away, we actually take away the power. Now, your child might persist because they aren't clear on how to get their attention in a positive way. The same would be true for power struggles. As long as they can get an adult power struggling with them, that makes them feel like they're pretty powerful. And in a way, they are. We can't ignore that our children actually do have personal power. We can't necessarily make them eat their broccoli or make them put on their shoes or make them do some of these things. We can threaten them and we can give them consequences. But the truth is that when it really comes down to it, they do have personal power. We want them to use that personal power for good. And in order to do that, they might need a little bit of support and some training. Now, if you do feel like something actually warrants a consequence, I want you to do something for me. First is to start with a little empathy. Think about what the child was trying to achieve. Were they trying to achieve attention or are they trying to achieve power? Now, here's a clue for what they were trying to achieve. What did you do after the child's behavior? For example, when the child was attention seeking or nagging or being noisy or acting out, did you give them attention? If so, it's likely that their goal was actually attention. Now let's say the power struggles. Did you get into a power struggle? Did you find yourself angry and feeling irritated and wanting to fight them? If so, their goal was likely power. And so if the goal is power, I want you to empathize. And if it was attention, I want you to empathize. Say something like, hey, honey, I can see you're really feeling like you'd like my attention. Or, honey, I can see you're really feeling disempowered right now and that you haven't had a lot of choices. I can see where you're coming from. If you can say those words, believe me, it's going to go a long way when it comes to inviting cooperation and getting your child to change those pesky behaviors. Another great tip here is to get down on their level. You know, most of the time our children are looking up at us and looking up at all the adults, bigger kids, etc. And it can be a little overwhelming. So I want to invite you to get down on their level and see the world from their eyes. While you're giving them empathy, see if you can get into their world and feel what they're feeling. Once your child feels heard, it's likely that they're going to be a lot more receptive to whatever you have to share. At this point, I want you to tell them how to achieve their goal in a positive way. For example, you might say something like, hey honey, I can see you're really wanting some attention right now. However, interrupting is not okay. And what I want you to do in the future is find a positive way to get my attention. Here are a few ways that you can get my attention. One, if I'm talking to somebody, you can wait till there's a pause in the conversation and you can say, excuse me. Two, if I'm talking to somebody and it's going a long time, you can gently place your hand on my arm and I will gently place my hand on your hand, letting you know that I see you, I understand you're here, and I will get to you as soon as I can. Three, you can say to me whenever I'm not speaking and without interrupting, hey Dad, I'd really like to spend some time with you. Now, these are three really easy ways for you to get my attention in positive ways, and we're going to have a much better experience. However, if you forget and you start nagging or interrupting again, I'm going to give you a clue that you should do a redo, that you should try again. So it might be something like a wink, or maybe, hey, let's try that over. Something like that that lets the child know that you're going to give them another chance to try again. Now, if the child ignores your wink or the redo signal, you need to let them know what will happen if they do not do things correctly. It might look something like this. If you forget or you decide to ignore the redo signals and you keep interrupting me, what I will do is I will actually turn my back or I will walk away with the person I'm talking to. This is a sign to let you know that I am not going to accept your nagging or interrupting because it's inappropriate. One of the things that you want to keep in mind is that if you take away the payoff or the reward that they would get through their behavior, you'll actually reduce the frequency that you see these types of behaviors. The other thing I want to point out is that we were letting them know that what we will do if they decide to ignore our instructions or the chance to redo. Notice that it's not what we will make them do. That's a really important distinction. Now, when you do have to use a consequence, you want to use these really, really sparingly. But if you do have to use a consequence, for example, that they lose the privilege of, being in that store or that restaurant, or they lose the privilege of playing with their friends for a little bit, when you do have to use those consequences, I want to encourage you to make sure that you are using consequences that are related, respectful, reasonable, and revealed in advance. That means that there's not a surprise. They know what the consequence will be if they do not make their correct choice. This way, you've given them the option to make the correct choice and to really go ahead and turn things around. But if they choose not to, they will experience a consequence. And when we deliver those consequences, remember to use a calm voice. Don't act too frazzled or too angry because this could give into that attention and those power struggles. Instead, I want you to use a calm voice and use a related, respectful, reasonable, and revealed in advance consequence. Those are the 4 R's of logical consequences. That comes from Positive Discipline from Jane Nelson. I absolutely love that book. It's one of the things I got certified in, and I really encourage you to check that book out if you're looking for some more positive discipline tools. The last thing I want you to know is really avoid those punitive punishments. Punitive punishments like, spankings or yelling or any of the things like timeouts or putting a nose in the corner or any of those really punitive things actually cause your child to feel disempowered, and it's really likely that you're going to experience more power struggles, more revenge, and maybe even more attention seeking as a result of using those. So try to avoid those types of punishments. If you want to learn more ideas and strategies for how to help your children with their misbehavior, just go to www.bedadly.com. Now that's all for me today. Remember to like, subscribe, and please do share us with your friends and family. We look forward to supporting you in the future. I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day. Thank you for watching.
Power Parenting 101.